Hello, and welcome back to Podfinder. My name is Philip, and I'm here to talk about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This is part of a series I am producing, covering the various deities in the Pathfinder role-playing game and its setting, the world of Golarion. Last time, I covered Razmir, the living god of Razmirin, and the master of the 31 Steps. With the start of a new month, I want to kick off a bit of a theme. So, July 2024 is Elf Month here at Podfinder. Back in the Callistria video earlier this year, I had mentioned that I didn't have much information on the remaining elven gods, and that I might wait for a future Lost Omens Kyonin book before I covered them. But then, I got my hands on some more 1E sourcebooks, and on Gatewalkers, and I found the articles on Ketefis, Findeladlara, and Alceta. So, screw it. I like elves, and I don't like waiting. This month is all about the gods of the elves, and I'll be putting out 3 videos this month to cover all the ones on which I have articles. Up first is Findeladlara, the elven goddess of twilight, artistic preservation, and architecture. Before that, though, if you enjoy this video and want to hear more Pathfinder lore, consider subscribing or commenting below. With that out of the way, let's move on to the rundown. Findeladlara, often called the Guiding Hand among the elves, is an ancient goddess whose faith originated on the planet of Castrovel among the elven people. She serves as a protector of the elvish people of Golarion, of sorts, and has taken special interest in the elves of the Mwangi Expanse and the elves of the Frozen North. Her church is relatively small, as she has no interest in non-elves, but her followers are exceptionally devout. Her areas of concern are art, architecture, and twilight. Outside of her dedicated clergy, she is primarily worshipped by the Ilverani, or Snow Elves, and to a lesser extent, the Alige and Ekuje elves of the Mwangi Expanse. Findeladlara is a strict traditionalist, and so typically presents herself as a stately, beautiful elven woman in traditional elven clothing. This clothing presumably changes based on the cultural background of the elf to whom she is presenting herself. In the most prominent depiction I could find, she is shown to be wearing Ilverani garb, with impossibly white hair matching her gown. In depictions by her followers, she is commonly shown standing beneath an archway, typically made from either mithril or woven branches. Findeladlara makes her home in Elysium, in her deific realm of Horizon Heart. Her realm exists on the metaphysical horizon of Elysium, meaning it can be approached on foot but never fully reached unless the Guiding Hand herself allows it. The realm itself is perpetually shrouded in twilight. Every building in the realm is an example of architectural and artistic perfection. Findeladlara's own palace is made from crystal, and is made even more beautiful by the impossible colors of the twilight sky. The realm is occupied by the Azure Criterion, a court of Azada worshippers dedicated to the Guiding Hand's teachings. To the extent that consistent geography exists in Elysium and the Outer Sphere more broadly, Horizon Heart can be found in close proximity to Midnight's Palette, the deific realm of the recently ascended Nocticula. This is due to a growing association and friendship between the two goddesses. Devout followers of Findeladlara are perfectionist creatives. They are artists, without a doubt, but build their artistic skills on a foundation of firm traditionalism and pragmatic survivalism. They are typically welcoming to strangers, though not known to reach out, and place great importance on hospitality, but are also wary of danger and are ready and willing to respond to threats with force. They also vigilantly watch for large-scale disasters, and are among the first to react to such situations and offer aid. In short, they are a strange mix of friendly isolated neighbors, doomsday preppers, and traditionalist architects. Some followers are known to take part in a religious pilgrimage known as a painted walk. These walks have no specific destination, with followers simply wandering into the wilderness with the teachings of Findeladlara to guide them. These wanderings have no specified duration, and may be as short as a few days or as long as several years. The journey always culminates in the creation of some work of art, which is deliberately left behind in the wild as an offering to the guiding hand. Findeladlara's holy text has been shockingly well detailed by Paizo. Called the Grand Canvas, the text is made up of multiple component parts. The first part of the text is the Pattern Essential, a collection of 36 artistic renderings which depict various forms of art or architecture. Each of these renderings is a single design intended to demonstrate perfection in one of Findeladlara's favored art forms: architecture, drawing, fashion, painting, sculpture, and craft. Craft, I infer, is a broad category including functional arts like smithing, masonry, and carpentry. The creation of new copies of the Pattern Essential is a precise and difficult task, and even minor imperfections result in the destruction of the copy and a total restart on the part of the creator. The second part of the holy text is the Model Illumina, a substantially more fluid text containing the interpretations of Findeladlara's teachings by various priests. This is a living document, intended to evolve over the ages, albeit slowly, given the long lives of the elves who make up her clergy. The observations of the priests are typically recorded, either in an ever-growing public collection of written works, or are inscribed in public places, such as the sides of buildings where they might be easily accessed. Of course, before these teachings are recorded, they are subject to substantial debate and refinement. Finally, the third part of the Grand Canvas is the Enchiridion Vital, a journal which each follower carries with them. This is the most varied and individualistic of the three subtexts, as each follower maintains their own journal. These books are typically used for practice sketches, but also serve as places where followers can record their favorite passages from the Model Illumina, or can brainstorm their own interpretations of the teachings of their faith. While all of these individual subtexts are considered important, they are intended to be used collectively. Each work builds on and feeds into the others, and only when taken as a whole can they provide proper insight into the guiding hand's teachings. As you might expect, temples to Findeladlara are all nearly unparalleled feats of artistic and engineering expertise. The buildings are all constructed based on the designs found in the Pattern Essential. As is typical among the constructions of the elves, these structures are designed to exist in harmony with their surroundings, and are built from local materials, including living trees and ice. While smaller temples are impressive in their design, the most inspiring structures are undoubtedly the great Findeladlaran cathedrals, each of which is among the grandest structures on Golarion. In addition to serving as houses of worship, each temple also serves as an art museum, containing dozens of pieces of art crafted by local followers. As a member of the elven pantheon, Findeladlara is worshipped at least nominally by many of the elves of Golarion. Her faith has a strong presence in Kyonin, the elven capital in Avestan, alongside the faiths of most of the elven gods. That being said, the faith of the Guiding Hand is held in particularly high regard by the Ilvirani, or Snow Elves of the Crown of the World, who believe that she personally led their people north to avoid the horrors of Earthfall. The Alige and Ekuje elves of the Mwangi Expanse also hold Findeladlara in high regard, though often as a sky goddess as much as a goddess of art and architecture. Among non-elves, Findeladlara's faith has no prominence. Findeladlara's personal origins are unknown, though her faith originated with the elves on Castrovel, the Venus of Golarion's star system. As the elves migrated to Golarion through the Ayudara, they brought the faith of the Guiding Hand with them, allowing it to take root in Avestan and Garund. When the elves fled Golarion before Earthfall, Findeladlara maintained her connection to them, but allowed much of her focus and concern to linger with the elves who elected to remain behind. The Earthfall disaster struck, and brought on the destruction of huge swaths of elven culture and art. This devastation had a significant impact on Findeladlara, who mourned the loss of so much beauty and took on the deific aspect of twilight to represent her loss. Still, the elves themselves endured. Findeladlaran design sensibilities allowed many structures to survive the violence of Earthfall, sheltering their inhabitants and allowing them to live on. In the Mwangi Expanse, the onset of the Age of Darkness, coupled with Findeladlara's newfound aspect of twilight, led the Ekije and Alije elves to embrace the guiding hand as a goddess of the sky. These elves incorporated her even more strongly into their faith, making her a leading member of their cultural pantheons. The frozen north, however, is the area where Findeladlara's influence would be felt most strongly. The Ilverani elves of the northern tundra might have been wiped out, but for the personal involvement of the goddess herself. Legends claim that the guiding hand manifested herself among the snow elves and led them further north into the crown of the world. The Ilverani were well suited to the oncoming Age of Darkness and adapted well to the bitter cold of the northern reaches of Golarion. The pain she suffered during the losses of Earthfall cemented Findeladlara's dedication to artistic preservation. She nurses this pain to this day. Her dedication to preservation is best represented in her architecture, which emphasizes durability and survivability. The ability of some of her structures to survive the Earthfall impact has left a lasting cultural impression in the elves who remained behind, and led to a further embrace of her design sensibilities. Findeladlara, much like her followers, has a good relationship with the other members of the elven pantheon, in particular Yulral and Ketifis. Yulral, the elven goddess of magic and crystals, and Ketifis, the elven god of the hunt, are closely followed by many of the cultures who especially venerate Findeladlara, especially the Alije and Ekuje elves. In Avestan, and particularly in Kyonin, Findeladlara, Ketifis, and Yulral are commonly worshipped as a trio, often with shared temples. These structures often follow Findeladlara's design sensibilities, but are decorated with crystals to honor Yulral and surrounded by gardens in honor of Ketifis. The three deities generally have a great deal in common, though Ketifis and Yulral do take issue with Findeladlara's insistence that she is a deity of elves only. Still, their areas of overlap are significant enough that numerous elves see faith in all three deities as a pillar of their culture. Other followers of Findeladlara have complex relationships with followers of non-elven deities whose domains overlap with the guiding hand. In particular, Desna and Nocticula, who each have substantial followings among the elves, also hold domain over aspects of the night sky. This might present a conflict with Findeladlara's domain over twilight, especially given each goddess's additional domains over art and expression. These overlaps can lead to conflict among followers, but can also lead to cooperation between the faiths, albeit in limited scope. As a goddess of art, you might expect Findeladlara to be on good terms with Shellen, but this is actually not true. Findeladlara sees art and architecture as an exercise in precision and expertise. Followers are expected to perfect one or more of the art forms which she condones, and are expected to root their artistic works in strict adherence to traditionalism. Skill is what Findeladlara values above all else, and artistic merit is something which can be measured objectively. Shellen, by contrast, sees all artistic expression as valuable, regardless of skill. So long as a Shellenite is earnest in their efforts and is attempting to improve, their work is valuable. For a Shellenite to make a mistake, it is simply an opportunity for improvement. For a Findeladlaran to make a mistake, it is a failure. Findeladlara has, in recent years, begun to develop a relationship with Nocticula, the recently ascended Redeemer Queen. This relationship is represented by the increasing proximity of their realms in Elysium. The nature of this relationship is unclear, though the overlap in their areas of interest is not insubstantial. In eastern New Thassalon, followers of Findeladlara have begun striking up friendships with followers of the Redeemer Queen. These relationships are resulting in the creation of new Findeladlaran art, which some followers of the Guiding Hand have deemed heretical. For players who might be interested in playing characters who follow Findeladlara, here are a few useful details. For those using the alignment rules, Findeladlara is chaotic good, but will allow followers of neutral good, chaotic neutral, and true neutral alignment. Her edicts are to preserve elven arts and culture, to secure and bless households, and to inspire others with your words. Conversely, to break the laws of hospitality and to allow a guest to harm your family are both anathema to Findeladlara. Her holy symbol is a golden star shining at the end of an extended index finger. Her domains are cities, creation, family, and star. Findeladlara's sacred colors are blue and gold. Rather than limiting themselves to these colors, her followers are dedicated to traditionalism, and this extends to their dress. Fashion is considered one of the guiding hand's areas of artistic concern, so followers take special care with their clothing. Due to the harsh environments in which many Findeladlarans, and especially the Ilverani, live, they typically need to incorporate highly practical elements into their outfits. This doesn't prevent them from being artistic and expressive, however, and flowing lines and left-right symmetry are often found among their clothing. In the Mwangi Expanse, clothing is also rooted in tradition, though the specific traditions are wildly different. Among the Alije, carved masks depicting faces and flowing loose tassels are a common form of expression, while among the Ekije, white body paint is used to artistically represent family history. Findeladlara's sacred weapon is the quarterstaff, an item used as both a weapon and a tool. Followers will often take great care in the construction of their personal quarterstaff. The staff will often be cut to a specific length with exactness, and individual lengths will be delineated from end to end. This allows the owner to use it as a measuring device. Followers might also decorate their quarterstaff with gemstones, or cap the ends in silver in an effort to turn the weapon into a work of art. Followers might also gravitate toward other weapons which can be used practically in non-combat roles. I'm imagining a whip marked with specific lengths, which can be used to measure distances or circumferences. Findeladlara's favored animal is the stag, a creature well suited for some of the northern climates where her faith is prominent. In the Mwangi Expanse, followers might gravitate toward local equivalents, like the antelope or other types of deer. Due to her emphasis on traditionalism, the majority of Findeladlara's clergy members are clerics. There is an even split of war priests and cloistered clerics, though the Ilverani rely more on war priests among their clergy, due to the extreme danger of the environment where they live. Non-priestly followers might also be bards, due to their focus on art, or rangers, due to their skill in surviving extreme environments. The Horizon Walker archetype would also serve followers well in the Crown of the World and throughout broader northern Avestan. Followers from the Frozen North might also have access to the Gelid Shard item and the associated archetype from the Treasure Vault. Additionally, the Twilight Speaker archetype is an archetype specifically intended for followers of the Guiding Hand. Findeladlara has devoted herself to the care of the Elves exclusively. The vast, vast majority of her followers are Elves, to the point that non-Elf followers are practically non-existent. Findeladlara herself has stated that she only cares for the prayers of the Elves. Among the Elves, the most devout followers can be found among the Ilverani in the Crown of the World, or the Alije and Ekije elves of the Mwangi Expanse. Her faith also has a presence among the elves of Kyonin and broader Avestan, though she is less prominent and is often considered just another member of the Pantheon. With the newly printed mixed ancestry heritage, there might be interesting opportunities for Ayuvaran characters who are trying to connect with their elven heritage to reach out to Findeladlara and the other deities in the elven pantheon. It's worth noting, however, that half-elves have historically been ostracized from Ilverani communities. These Ayuvaran, typically called snowborn or snowcasters, are generally the offspring of horizon walkers and humans of the Erutaki, Ulfin, or Yadwiga ethnicities. Devout followers of Findeladlara live lives firmly rooted in tradition. They are committed to preserving their artistic and cultural history, and surviving the dangers life presents. They generally keep to themselves, but are welcoming to strangers. The faith of Findeladlara is difficult to separate from elven culture more broadly, and much of her history is intrinsically tied to the history of the elven people, and especially those who remained on Golarion through the Earthfall calamity. For GMs looking to integrate Findeladlara and her followers into a campaign, here are some ideas. Findeladlara has no known herald or divine servitors, though she might send members of her Azure Criterion to communicate with her followers on Golarion. Followers have also been known to make their way into her realm of Horizon Heart. These followers might make their way there partially by accident, or while on a painted walk. These followers might even receive advice directly from Findeladlara herself. From a storytelling perspective, Findeladlara has relatively few lasting enemies among the divinities of Golarion. That said, the personal trauma she experienced as a result of Earthfall means she and her followers likely still have an extremely antagonistic relationship with the Algolthu. These beings, the ones who originally summoned the Earthfall meteor, were the root cause of the destruction, and the Guiding Hand likely harbors a grudge. A GM might be able to call the normally isolationist Findeladlarans to action by presenting them with a threat in the form of an Algolthu plot to create some new disaster. In such an adventure, PCs might be able to rely on the Findeladlaran tendency to prepare for disasters and their willingness to stand against them. A GM might also draw inspiration from the large distance and cultural differences between the various tribes of elves which revere Findeladlara in specific. The Ilverani elves of the Crown of the World have relatively little in common with the Alige and Ekuje elves of the Mwangi Expanse. Even their reverence for the Guiding Hand is expressed in wildly different ways. It might be interesting to feature the interaction between these two groups as part of a campaign or adventure. This might take place in the Magambia, with an Ilverani elf traveling south either to study or as part of the Painted Walk. This interaction might also take place in Kyonin, as Queen Talandia Edasiril has recently been trying to make cultural connections to the various groups of elves across Golarion. Finally, the Ilverani are some of the rare inhabitants of the Crown of the World, meaning adventurers traveling over the Crown between Avestan and Tian Sha will almost certainly encounter them. The Ilverani would likely welcome these adventurers, so long as they don't take advantage of the hospitality. Ilverani settlements might even function as waypoints or temporary bases of operation for adventurers in the area. The elves might even provide the adventurers with various side quests in exchange for their hospitality. These might include recovery missions for missing followers who vanished on their Painted Walk, or might involve the adventurers being sent out with a Findeladlaran guide to hunt down and address a creature or plot which is threatening the Ilverani community. So that's it. That's Findeladlara, the Guiding Hand, and the guardian of the Ilverani elves. Her devotion to cultural preservation is rooted in the traumatic history of the elves of Golarion, and her artistic sensibilities allowed many of the remaining elves in Garund and northern Avestan to survive. She is highly focused on elven culture specifically, and considers artistic expression to be a study in skill rather than creativity. Up next, Elf Month continues with Alceta, the goddess of transitions and doorways, and the patron of the Elfgate network, the Ayudara. See you next time.